You're listening to Ring Chronicles with Lance Vaughn and Glenn Ritchie.
All right. That was our first intro.
Yes. All three people that listen to the podcast will hear the intro.
Yeah. Hope everyone enjoys it.
So Lance, did the increased controversy and hate, did it translate to more listeners?
Yes.
It did.
A few, yes.
A few.
Yes. And what was interesting is that it wasn't just the CM Punk episode. It was all of them. All of them gained a little bit.
Really?
Yeah. So that's good. So I think what that means is that probably one or two were like, well, I'm gonna listen to some of these other episodes and see what else they talk about. But yeah, it did translate to a few. It's really no different than, you got to have like X number of views on YouTube to have X number of comments or likes.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing. You got to have like a shit ton of views for it to translate over to the podcast. So we need thousands on thousands to get decent download numbers, I think. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, still figuring it out, but yeah.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah. So I got a new intro that I threw together in about 17 minutes, and So now we are recording a week after our last episode, which was about whether or not wrestling was in a boom period that we have not uploaded yet
as of today.
Right. But I'm gonna get that soon, and then this one will soon follow.
So no errors and omissions today.
Right.
However, we did get some negative comments.
We did, and it was great. I enjoyed them.
Now, one thing I want to also point out is we got twice as many likes as we got negative comments. So there were quite a few people. I figured it's kind of like a restaurant review with Yelp.
Yeah.
You're going to have people that like the restaurant, but even more that disagree are going to comment.
Right.
And I just want to say that all of those comments just fed into what I'm doing even more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if anything, I'm even more emboldened now.
Right.
So I'm going to entrench in all this even further. Because basically, I think negative reactions is better than no reactions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so that's how I feel about it.
It's like the old saying: the only bad publicity is no publicity.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I will take the bad comments all day. In fact, it's fucking hilarious, honestly.
Yes.
I enjoy. I mean, you take a look at this first. I believe this was the first one that I sent. Okay, so first off, this is going to be a regular on the show. We want to announce that, right?
Yes.
This is going to be a segment at the beginning of every show called Lariat of Hate.
Lariat of Hate.
Where we address the negative comments and, mostly laugh at it.
Yeah, we're not going to take feedback seriously on this podcast.
Unless it's good feedback. Unless it's constructive feedback.
Maybe.
Okay, so you want me to start reading them off, and then we'll address them one by one?
Yeah,
Is that how we're going to do this?
Before we go, yes, we will take constructive feedback. If somebody has a suggestion for a show, or actually, we have to credit the guy that likes Vince Russo for the topic that we're going to discuss later today. So, but go ahead, Lance.
Okay, so this was probably the most entertaining one. So this was on the video. The title was CM Punk fired by Tony Khan. It was pretty much the first clip from that episode. But the comment said, "It's either obese or dwarf people stating opinions that no one cares about."
Okay, is he talking about little people? Or like, are we talking about like mythological?
I don't know.
Like Norse.
I don't
mythology?
know. But I want to see the dwarves though. I want to see these. I
know what an obese person is.
Right.
By the way.
Yeah. Oh, do you?
Yeah. I was waiting to like comment on the body shaming, and because this isn't the only comment that mentioned something about that.
Right.
The body shaming is just amazing because once again, okay, when I talk about the average AEW fan, I'm talking about like the extreme AEW fan. I'm talking about like the 300,000 people that when the WWE has a pay-per-view, they still watch Collision. Okay.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Those people, except for the ones that maybe just can't afford Peacock, they're that broke.
Okay.
Okay. The ones that are just so diehard AEW that they will forego a WWE pay-per-view to watch their show.
Right.
That's the average AEW fan. There's about 300,000 of those people in America. Okay.
Right.
So you take like two City of Valdosta's and put them together.
Right.
And you've got that group of people.
Okay. Gotcha.
Extreme minority here.
Oh yeah.
I'm not talking about like an AEW fan, like, actually myself who, if there's an AEW live event, I'll go to it if it's nearby.
Right.
Or, I actually like some of the talent that's on the roster. And, there's been some good matches that I've enjoyed.
Right.
I would say I'm a casual AEW fan, even though I complain about it all the time. I think the fact that but that's what you do when you're a wrestling fan. You complain about wrestling. So
hence the podcast.
Exactly. Like, so that was another thing too. Like there was comments like, and you'll get to it like, oh, I don't want people to have jobs and stuff like that. I mean, it's just crazy. Yeah. So I don't understand what his hate towards little people is about.
I don't.
If that's what he's talking about is little people.
Yeah, I don't know.
But the Beast comment, the irony is your average diehard edgelord Reddit moderator AEW fan will body shame someone like me.
Yeah.
But if one of their indie darlings came out with a giant beer belly, and you say anything about that, they're going to jump on top of you. They're going to be blowing up your comments. You're body shaming, and he can do 100 million more squats than you can, and you couldn't do what he does in the ring, and you're talking about stuff that's like it's just ridiculous. Or the body shaming in the opposite direction. You got some guy that's skinny fat. That's an AEW. AEW's got a lot of those guys. Have you noticed that? Skinny fat guys.
Yeah.
And that same person that would body shame me would defend that. Or if you made a comment like, I don't think this 120-pound wrestler soaking wet should win a match against the guy that's 6'7", 280 pounds. Right. How dare you make such assertions?
Right.
So, they want to criticize the WWE and how wrestling has been traditionally booked, where you don't have little guys going over big guys. So they don't want any kind of anything about the wrestler's body to influence the booking,
right, or
people's opinion about that wrestler. They will defend that wrestler to the death. But then they'll get on YouTube or Twitter or X or whatever and call someone fat or obese. So, once again, the hypocrisy of this toxic minority within the AEW fandom. They have, I think there's toxic WWE fans too, but I think the toxic AEW fandom is probably about 100 times larger. 100 times larger. I say there's probably about 2 million AEW fans in the United States. I say 1 million of them are casual fans. They'll show up at the event if it shows up in town. Sometimes flipping through the channels, they'll watch AEW, or if there's a really big match, they'll switch. That's about 1 million of them. Then you got the 1 million people that will consistently watch it. These are the ones that tune into Dynamite. These are the ones that tune into Collision. Out of that 1 million, about half of them will turn to watch WWE if a WWE event that's big or like anything that's major comes on. If they moved Raw to Wednesday night, about half the Dynamite viewership would be wiped out, because half of that million people are just wrestling fans that are watching AEW just because it's wrestling. Right. They're not committed to the product. They're committed to the names. They're committed to people like CM Punk, which AEW just lost. They're committed to Bryan Danielson. They're committed to the big names. They're not the ones that go to the event and just chant AEW unless they're just doing it to do it along with everybody else. Okay, but there's that 300,000 people that's toxic, and they would get on there. Their guy will look like a box of Cheerios with a six-pack stuck on top of it, and they will cheer for that guy and then body shame me.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So that's the toxic fandom that we're talking about.
Yeah. That's something I've noticed for a long time with wrestling fans. If you make fun of something that they like, they'll say, well, you can't do this, or this guy has this, and you don't like. Okay, neither do you. You can't do that either. So what are you doing? Living vicariously through these wrestlers that you like? I mean, what? Yeah, but you can't do these things either. You don't have those things either. So,
well, once again, they're unhinged Reddit people.
Yeah.
That are basement dwellers that have Cheetos and Doritos on their fingers that they're typing, staining their keyboards. Right. Keyboard warriors.
Yes.
Typing these comments about my weight.
Yep.
So that's what we're dealing with. I mean, they may not be fat like I am, but they're not in shape.
Yeah, in their mom's basement.
In their mom's basement. Right.
All right. So a couple others, I believe it was on the same video. This was on TikTok. A couple of comments. One said "L take," as in loser take, and then the other one was "What a fucking idiot take."
Hey, I would have you know that. Okay, I'll own up to being fat because it's pretty obvious, right? I like to eat. I have good taste in wrestling and food. Okay, that's why I'm fat. I figured God had to give me some flaw so that way I wouldn't be perfect and wouldn't be able to walk on water. Okay? But the one thing that I'm not is I am not an idiot. Lance, I came from a highly educated university.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so one comment, it sounded like he was pissed off that wrestling content was put in front of him. It said, I don't even watch wrestling. Just shut the fuck up. Thanks, bro. Thanks for the watch. And then another one said, not sure bro knows what an edgelord is.
Okay. I looked that one up. There's a narrow definition of what an edgelord is, and there's a broad definition of an edgelord. So what he's probably thinking about is the narrow definition of an edgelord, which is somebody that gets online and like posts like nihilistic Nietzsche quotes.
Yeah.
Just to be edgy. I wasn't talking about that kind of person. I was just talking about somebody that just want to be edgy and like criticize the WWE. Just to be edgy, so they're gonna like anything that's an alternative to the WWE. So that's what I mean by an edgelord. But whatever you want to call it, Reddit moderator, edgelord, it don't matter.
Right?
But yeah, I looked it up. I technically wasn't wrong.
Right.
Let's move on.
Okay, so the next one. I believe he was okay. So this was talking about Punk and Jack Perry, right? And the comment said, "So he can't stick up for himself against kids with a year in the business." So I'm not sure if he's agreeing with you or not. Because it kind of sounds like he's defending Punk. Like he can't stick up for himself against kids with a year in the business.
That's what I felt like.
Yeah,
maybe he misunderstood, or maybe there was a part of the podcast where I said that Punk was wrong.
Right.
I mean, that is the thing. Like all these people, none of these people actually listen to the whole podcast.
Oh yeah. Well, Well, I mean, these are coming from a minute or less clip.
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah.
So, at the end of it, I eventually said that Punk was wrong.
Right.
Okay.
Like at the beginning, we hit it pretty hard, and then I kept posting clips from that entire conversation, and then I think the last clip I posted is where you said something like, "I'm saying this tongue in cheek," kind of, and you kind of agreed. So
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm posting clickbait shit here, trying to get people pissed off. So.
well, what? Let's if that guy is listening to this now, we agree with you.
Yeah,
he should be allowed to defend himself.
Right.
The situation was handled terribly. No Punk shouldn't have done it, but Tony Khan shouldn't have handled it. I like the way that Jim Cornette said that he would handle it. He would have let them fight it out. Right. And when they were done, are you done?
Right.
Okay, let's go meet in my office. And they would, basically cut out all the bullshit.
Right.
And work it out.
Right.
The way they handled it was just, fearful of my life. Think about every single fight that you saw on a playground growing up, Lance.
Yeah.
Was your life in danger?
Nope.
No. No, I remember seeing a kid get his teeth punched out.
Yeah.
Didn't feel like my life was in danger.
Right.
It's just, I'm not condoning violence among children, but I'm just saying, if I can survive, childhood fights on the playground, and I've gotten into a few myself, then certainly Tony Khan can survive CM Punk.
Right. And again, CM Punk wasn't trying to kill Tony Khan.
No.
Okay, so I think this will be our last one here. Fatty needs to understand that people can like the other stuff. I'm sorry, let me start over. Fatty needs to understand that people can like other stuff other than WWE. Kind of fucked up how they don't want other wrestlers to make a living.
Oh my God. Where in any of that did I say that I didn't want there to be an alternative to the WWE?
Yeah.
Or I didn't want wrestlers to make a living. I wanted them all fired. If anything, I was trying to say that maybe CM Punk shouldn't have been fired. I was trying to save a guy here,
right.
That maybe CM Punk should have been, the situation should have been handled better, so he could have kept his job.
Right.
The fact that, okay, everything in the WWE is overproduced, right? Well, in AEW, everything is so just let go. Anything happens, that allows this kind of bullshit to happen.
Right.
What Jack Perry did would have never happened in the WWE. Never.
Right.
Because let's just face it, Vince keeps a tight leash on everybody there. So the fact that he was able to do it and basically got away with it with a slap on the wrist, and it caused someone to get fired, their top talent, their top draw. You remember when I said earlier I estimated there's about 2 million American AEW fans? I would say CM Punk by himself has more than 2 million fans in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's AEW's problem is some of their wrestlers are bigger than the organization itself, and they just lost their biggest one. So that's my issue with this whole situation.
Yeah.
I don't want everybody to get fired. That's ridiculous. That's stupid.
Yep.
I want people to thrive, and I want good wrestling. That's all I want is just good wrestling. Wrestling that I can watch without just feeling disgust and just hate watching it. Like when I watch AEW, unless it's FTR or Bryan Danielson or someone like that, I basically hate watch it. It's just so once again they get a viewer out of me occasionally whenever I'm just so bored that I want to hate watch something.
Right.
So that translates to a view, but I don't want to hate watch it, Lance.
Yeah.
I want to enjoy it.
Right.
I mean, yes, I do want to hate watch it, but I actually, but I want to enjoy it even more.
Right.
Like if I had to choose between like, do I want to hate watch AEW or do I want to enjoy AEW?
Right.
I would rather enjoy AEW.
Yep.
I would rather say, man, this is awesome. The guy that likes Vince Russo, he shared something about Cody Rhodes' vision for AEW, and it was basically Mid-Atlantic in the 80s. Yeah. Could you imagine? Could you imagine if that's what happened? And I thought it was heading in that direction.
Yeah.
The first pay-per-view they did before Tony Khan threw billions of dollars at everything.
Right.
What was it? All In was the name of it?
Yeah.
All In. The match. I remember watching the match with Cody Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes.
Yeah.
And they were breaking out.
That one I think was Double or Nothing.
Double or Nothing. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that might have been their second.
Yeah. Well, whatever it was.
Before they had the TV deal. Yeah.
Yeah, before they had TV deal. Yeah. And I think it was the first one though, because I think that was the one that Dave Meltzer was saying they couldn't get over like 10,000 fans or something.
That was All In, but that wasn't like AEW yet.
Okay,
that was in I think 2018 early 2019.
That's the pay-per-view I'm talking about.
And then the second one was the one that had I think Dustin and Cody.
Okay, maybe you would know. You might know better. That was
the one that was a bloody mess.
Yeah,
but because in All In, Cody faced Nick. He was the NWA Nick Aldis.
Yeah,
he faced Nick Aldis, I think.
Well, Lance, you might know better than me on this particular issue.
Yep.
Given that you're the AEW expert.
Yep.
On the show.
Expert. Yep.
So here's the thing, though. That match between Dustin Rhodes and Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Man, I love that match. I was like, man, they're on to something. You see a pile driver. You see blood. WWE was still coming out of the PG era at this point.
Right.
And you see blood. And like I said, you see moves and holds you haven't seen in like ages.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, since the daggum 90s.
Right.
Okay. Since before the whole CTE controversy and everything.
Right.
And not to say I want wrestlers to do all that stuff, but I mean, it was just nostalgic to me to see a pile driver. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it brought back that feeling of like, man, this is. I mean, hell, this reminds me of early '90s WCW. I mean, hell, you had a guy from early '90s WCW in the match against his brother.
Late '80s, even.
Late '80s, yes. And these two guys were the son of Dusty Rhodes. So I was all about it.
Yeah.
I was really hopeful for all this stuff. But then you had the Hardley boys, like see, the thing is, if they were booked with some controls, so they're not doing exploding super kicks,
right?
And they wrestled their matches. I mean, because they're tiny.
Yeah.
And I'm not body shaming. I'm just saying they're tiny. Like, this is just a measurement we're talking about.
All petite wrestling, as Corny likes to say.
Yeah. So, you know, if they're going up against bigger guys, it should be done in a way of like they're the underdogs and they're not just doing, you know, all the crap that they do, all the spot stuff that they do.
Right.
So, yeah, that's actually what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
We're talking about the presentation of wrestling.
I do want to say, before I forget, I read a quote from Bobby Fish. I don't know if you saw this.
No, I didn't.
Where he was talking about going from WWE, NXT, whatever he was in, to AEW. And he pretty much said what I kind of suspected all along. He said there's a lot more freedom. He said creatively, all that, a lot more freedom. and he said he thinks guys, gravitate towards that. Obviously, you have a little bit more creative freedom. He said, but it becomes too much. He said, no one's really. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not quoting exactly, but he was basically saying, somebody basically needs to have control over it instead of letting these guys do what they want.
Yeah.
And I've heard Corny talk about this before. Like I've heard him talk about a bad segment in AEW, and he'll say, "This is what happens when you let the boys do what they want."
Yeah,
and that's basically what Bobby Fish was saying. The same thing.
It's almost like there should be a happy medium,
right? Yeah,
between what the WWE
that's pretty much
does.
That's exactly what Bobby Fish said. He said there's doing whatever you want, and then being locked down creatively, and there's got to be a middle ground. And basically he was saying, I think he was saying that's what's missing in AEW.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing about all of this is, let me talk about what's going on in wrestling right now before I say what should be happening. Right. Okay. So right now, wrestling compared to like the past, there's an overemphasis on spots. Okay. Yeah. For anybody that's not a mark that doesn't understand what a spot is.
Yeah.
So this is basically, to put it in like layman's terms, it's like a stunt. Okay. At least how it's used now. Right. Okay. So a spot could be a particular maneuver. It could be a series of maneuvers. But that's a spot. Would you disagree with me on that, Lance?
That's pretty accurate. I guess depending on who you watch, depends on whether or not it's a stunt. Because you could show. To me, I think if you have a couple guys doing a lot of mat wrestling, doing reversals and all these things, you could call that a spot.
It would be a spot. Yeah.
But you could also call a spot, slamming each other through 3 tables back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
And then laying on the ground for 6 minutes.
And then like 3 tope suicidas at the same time by 3 different wrestlers on 3 different crowds of people.
That's also a spot.
Yeah.
So there's good and bad spots.
So yeah. I think stunt probably would be a bad word. Stunt might be accurate in most AEW matches. Okay. And so there's an overemphasis on spots. Okay. The spots, like I said, are not bad. If you watch Lucha Libre, for example, they'll have these very complex series of maneuvers. And, it can be great to have that in wrestling. The other thing that's an issue is the lack of selling. Okay, selling is making things look real. You get hit in the face, you act like you got hit in the face, even if it didn't hurt. Okay, so you don't see that like you used to in a wrestling match. So just anybody that's interested, just find any wrestling match that was by any major star in the 80s. Go watch a Steamboat Flair match. Go watch anything with the Road Warriors. Go watch, hell, you can even go into the 90s, and it was still, there was wrestlers that would sell appropriately. And the matches were meant to look like a contest, an actual sports match. Wrestling should look like an actual match, okay? And I think that the average toxic AEW mark in that 300,000 pool I told you about,
right?
I think they don't think that wrestling should look like wrestling anymore. They think that wrestling should look like trampoline acrobatics and wrestling girls. And
I agree.
And wrestling blow-up dolls and shoot. And here's the thing. What wrestling should look like. But I'm putting a lot of emphasis on AEW. Let me back up a little bit. Let's talk about what the WWE is doing right now. So the WWE, selling could be better there. But it is made to look like a realistic fight, contest, whatever.
I would imagine if you no sell, there might be more consequences in WWE than
a lot
in
more.
AEW. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, a lot more. Not unless you had like express permission because of a gimmick type situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, like the Undertaker, there was times he was allowed to not no sell. You know, to no sell.
Mm-hmm.
Hulk Hogan was at times allowed to no sell, but those were very specific situations.
Right.
And Ultimate Warrior was allowed to not sell at times.
Yeah.
But for the most part, yeah, there would be a lot of repercussions there if you or there could even be repercussions for overselling. That's happened before too. There was a guy, gosh, what's his name? He was in the Royal Rumble. He took a clothesline standing on the apron and did a backflip onto the floor. I can't remember his name. For some reason, Paul London comes to mind, but I don't think that's who it was. But it could be. I don't know. But anyway, I remember the guy got fired because Vince thought his selling of the clothesline was too flashy. So he kind of made it. He kind of He wasn't supposed to make himself look good in the match. That's what he did.
Okay.
So because everybody was like, "Oh, look at that," you know. So that wasn't his point in that Royal Rumble. So yeah, he lost his job because of that. So you can get fired for selling too much.
Right.
That didn't happen to Shawn Michaels against Hulk Hogan.
I was just about to say that.
But if you're a mid carder, selling too much could get you canned. Okay.
Yeah.
So
because then you make it look silly.
Yeah.
You're making it
right. You're making it look silly. So the WWE, its biggest problem is everything is so overproduced. Wrestlers have to go out there and spout out, memorize lines.
Yeah.
That don't sound genuine from a lot of the wrestlers.
Exactly.
And it's just crap. And wrestlers are not allowed to be creative. They're not allowed to say stuff off the fly. And God, I can't believe I'm admitting this.
Okay. I'm ready. Let's go.
So, to prepare for this podcast, I wanted to talk about deathmatch wrestling.
Okay.
And that led me into a YouTube rabbit trail.
Oh boy.
That involved Jon Moxley.
Of course.
And I watched some promos from Jon Moxley prior to going into the WWE.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen any of these.
And they were good.
It was good, clean wrestling.
It was good promos.
Good promos, okay.
His wrestling is kind of meh.
Okay.
I mean, and now it's even worse, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
but the guy can wrestle. Why he wants to do a death match in front of 30 people when he used to be a world champion wrestling in pay-per-views and in front of WrestleMania and all this other kind of crap is beyond me. The guy has to have a screw loose for real.
By the way, I just want to point out, I realized something the other day. He was the second AEW world champion. Now he is a third-tier champion. I just thought that was interesting.
Well,
he's the international champion. That's for third-tier championship. So I don't know. I just thought I don't know if you see that often where you see somebody being a world champion and then they're
well, it happened to Shawn Michaels when he was European champion. I don't.
But wasn't that for the sake of making him a Grand Slam champion?
Yes.
Okay.
At least that's what I mean. Or if that isn't why they did it, that's what came out of it.
Right.
I don't know if they said we're going to make him a Grand Slam champion by doing this because he was the first Grand Slam champion. That concept might have came later. I don't know.
Okay.
So the thing about that right now, Becky Lynch is the NXT Women's Champion.
Okay.
So Becky Lynch, who's the biggest female star in the world, is holding the developmental title.
Right.
It made her a Grand Slam champion or whatever. It was like the only belt she hadn't held.
Right.
So, yeah. So a wrestler that's a big name holding a lower tier title isn't completely unheard of. John Cena held the U.S. title for example, had a great run with the U.S. title, silenced a lot of his detractors with the United States Championship. But John Moxley had a really good promo that I saw, several promos that were amazing. And he was allowed to be completely just unhinged. I mean, he's got blood coming out of his head, which is, John Moxley.
The usual.
It was great stuff, and you don't see that stuff in the WWE. And what the problem is for a wrestler to actually really get over on the mic, they have to be so good that they can make the crap that's written for them actually work. LA Knight, for example.
Okay.
He's cut some promos, and sometimes it sounds like LA Knight, and some of the stuff he says, I'm kind of like, that doesn't sound like something LA Knight would say. Now, I'm sure that LA Knight is collaborating with the writers with his promos. I mean, he's now blown up to be such a big star that he can actually be involved in that process.
Yeah.
But, LA Knight has a lot of common sense about the wrestling business. He commented somewhere that he didn't like wrestling wrestlers that were much smaller than him because it was not believable. He didn't like that. I mean, that's just common sense in wrestling, okay? Unless you have a star that can wrestle as a small person believably and, outsmart the heel or figure out a way to make the match make sense,
right?
It's terrible to watch. And then now I have some mixed feelings about this one. He also didn't like wrestling women, intergender matches.
Okay.
I don't know why, but given LA Knight's mindset, I kind of consider that I don't think it's like he doesn't like hitting women as much as he thinks it's unbelievable.
Right. Right.
Well, I agree with him to an extent, unless it's someone like China or something like that.
Yeah.
Then I'm a lot more open to that because it looks, in my opinion, China winning a men's title was at the time very believable to me.
Right.
I mean, like you said, she could bench press more than like a lot of the guys.
Right.
So her beating up a smaller looking guy wasn't completely just unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
So, there's times where intergender matches I think can make sense. But generally you shouldn't have a woman that weighs 120 pounds beating up a man that weighs 250 pounds.
Right.
That's not sexist. There's two different divisions. I love women's wrestling. We did a damn good podcast on women's wrestling, 2 episodes.
2 episodes,
that you can listen to. And honestly, I think you could tell if you listen to those podcasts, I had more oomph in the women's episodes than the men's because I just love women's wrestling. So, that's the thing, though. Once again, though, you can criticize the WWE, but if you can't look at AEW and see some of the faults in it, you're in that 300,000 toxic Reddit moderator AEW crowd.
Yep.
And so I think that's where the issue is. We need wrestling to be. It needs to look like a legitimate contest. People need to sell things. You get hit with a massive maneuver, you don't get up 5 minutes later and like do a running spaceman planchma through a table.
Yeah, I will say that's another thing I don't like about AEW. It seems like it's probably not this much, but every other match you see a kick out of a finisher. And so then it's like, well, then I guess there's no finishers.
Yeah,
I just see a lot of that.
Well, like in the WWE, if you kicked out of a finisher without like having permission, then that would be a really bad thing. And historically, if you kicked out of a wrestler's finisher without asking that wrestler personally, that was a bad deal.
Right.
You were going to be like Jack Perry in the back of the locker room, and getting your just dues,
right?
Because that's how shit was handled back in that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and that's the problem. I think CM Punk came from the old school.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And these guys, they come from, I don't know, daycare.
I guess the boomers would call it woke wrestling.
Woke wrestling. But see, that's the thing. That's the thing about it. They're woke, but they're toxic. They'll call me fat, and they'll fat shame. But then when their guy that looks like a box of cereal with a six-pack on it comes out.
A box of cereal with a six-pack. God damn.
Then suddenly they're woke as fuck.
Yeah.
You know, and they're going around AOC Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
But then they'll call me fatty on Facebook. Not Facebook, but YouTube or whatever. So they're hypocrites.
Yep.
They're hypocrites.
Yep.
And that's the thing too. I'm not for body shaming in wrestling. I think that if you do, everything has to just make common sense.
Right.
I like Darby Allin.
Mm-hmm.
Darby Allin, I think he should be booked better.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he could get the Rey Mysterio treatment. And I've mentioned this before of being the little guy. I'm not as diehard about the size issue that LA Knight suggests that he might be, or I'm definitely not as far as Jim Cornette on that issue.
Right.
I think that there's room for creativity, but it needs to be done believably.
Yeah.
Why is this little person beating this big person?
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't have a little person dominating a big person for the whole match.
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
The little person surprises everybody with a win, even if they're winning all the matches.
Right.
So someone like Darby Allin, I'm okay with. I think it has to be we have to use common sense.
Is there just talking about big guys versus little guys? Is there a line somewhere? Because now what I mean is that okay, Darby Allin against Powerhouse Hobbs. You know who Powerhouse Hobbs is.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not really believable, right?
I think
as an example.
I think it depends
on okay, not Darby Allin specifically, but somebody Darby Allin's size against somebody that's Powerhouse Hobbs' size.
Generally, in the vast majority of cases, yes.
Okay.
Now, would I accept Darby Allin beating Powerhouse Hobbs?
Right.
I think Darby Allin could pull it off and make it look at least somewhat believable. Okay.
Okay.
But the average Darby Allin lookalike, as far as weight and height, shouldn't be beating up someone like Powerhouse Hobbs. That makes no sense.
Okay, so right. So by drawing the line somewhere, I'm talking about that versus say Stone Cold versus the Big Show.
Yeah. Okay.
See what I'm saying?
But okay,
because most likely Stone Cold's going to go over in that match because he's the bigger star, right?
Yeah. Okay. So.
And now Darby. Now here's the other thing. Darby Allin is a small man. Okay, he is especially in wrestling. Stone Cold is not a small man.
He's an average size wrestler,
but he's going up against a massive human being.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. You draw the line somewhere where you say this isn't okay, but this is
okay. So this is my thoughts on that. The Big Show is an exception on this because even though he's gotten a lot of criticism in his career, I actually think the Big Show was a good big man.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in a fight, there's a tipping point where size actually counts against you.
Okay.
Like, for example, who do I think would win in a fight between John Cena and the Great Khali in a real actual fight.
Right.
Okay, the Great Khali moves around at the speed of a snail.
Right.
John Cena can pick him up and throw him.
Right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So in my mind, seeing John Cena beat the Great Khali makes perfect sense to me.
Now, in that case, I'm not saying you're wrong at all, but in that case, they promoted how strong John Cena is. That was demonstrated a lot.
Yeah.
So
they promoted how much whipping ass that Stone Cold did.
Right. Well, right. Okay. Yeah.
And also, Stone Cold would do things in a fight. I mean, he wasn't afraid to bend the rules.
Right.
So, like, if let's say, for example, I was booking a Steve Austin versus Big Show match, I would, given the fact that Austin was a tweener in some ways,
right,
I would probably throw in a part where the referee's back's turned or there's a distraction or something another happened, referee gets knocked out. Yeah. Steve Austin busts the Big Show up with a chair. Okay, throws the chair out of the ring. The crowd goes. The crowd's going to cheer for this.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. You know, there's ways to make things believable. But you know, Steve Austin was also pushed in a way that people thought that he could just whip anybody's ass.
Yeah.
So it was believable for him to beat the Big Show. Yeah. So it's how you book the person, how you push the person. Yeah. And the wrestler's individual talents.
Okay. Well, now that you said that, so we've established now that a lot of it has to do with how you're booked. It's been established that Darby Allin will do some crazy ass shit to win a match.
Yes.
Therefore, it's believable that he could go over a big guy. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Okay, because I mean the fucking coffin drops onto the fucking ring apron. That fucking scares me.
Yeah.
But he's booked in a way where it's been shown that he'll do crazy ass shit to win a match.
Right. But yeah, Darby Allin is believable of beating bigger guys because, like you said, what he does in the ring, how he's pushed, how he's booked. Right. I think it could be better, but it's not the worst. Right. And, I mean, I don't think anybody can deny that Darby Allin is a great talent. You'd really have to be pretty pessimistic about AEW to go that far. With it. Right. I mean, it's just the guys. I just hope he doesn't die.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's up until like right now, I never considered that how you're booked can determine if you can go over somebody or not. Or you know, if it's believable.
Yes, definitely. It makes a huge difference. Gosh, I remember back when I believed it was real as a kid. Yeah. I used to like just keep track of who beat who, and I had this intricate thing in my mind, almost like a pyramid in my mind of like who was better than who, right? Based off of who they lost against or who they won a match against. Yeah, and of course, you know, sometimes wrestlers would have upsets and stuff like that, but. I mean, Rey Mysterio, he made a whole career of being the little guy against the big guy. And nobody's going to doubt that Rey Mysterio is a freaking legend. So, no, I'm not against little guys winning matches. It just needs to make sense. It needs to be believable. It needs to follow a basic common sense formula that, you know, doesn't involve having to tiny guys doing super kicks and beating everybody. It needs to make sense. And, you know, there's certain things that could cause a person to be believable to go over, like their wrestling skill, you know, mat wrestling skill, or, their ability to do submissions or, you know, whatever. So there are definitely ways to make it believable that a little guy could beat a bigger guy. Yep. So... No, but it's just I don't know. I just don't get it. That toxic fandom, you know, as far as the stuff that they defend while also criticizing at the same time, it just baffles me.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, just that's I'm glad we covered that, because that's something to think about. You know, you gotta, if you can establish someone's, a wrestler's ability, then you can make it believable down the road that, different things can happen. Not just against big guys, but just, anything really, right?
Anybody.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And, I also think that wrestlers should have weaknesses too.
Mm-hmm.
And a small guy now has a natural weakness that he can lean into. But even your average size guys or your big guys all need to have a weakness. I mean, it's kind of like comic books,
Right.
What is that wrestler's kryptonite?
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And if you got a wrestler that's like pushed way too far, that they can lose that, and that's where you get like the unbeatable John Cena and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That fans come to hate.
Yeah.
So. And I'm starting to worry that Roman Reigns is getting into that territory where he's just, I don't know. It's just getting. I'm ready for him to lose his belts, all three of them.
Belts.
Yes, I'm ready for him to lose his belts, and I don't know who it'll be too, but it just needs to happen. Cody Rhodes or whatever. But man, L.A. Knight, they're pushing that dude to the moon.
Good.
They've launched a rocket onto his ass.
Yeah. Good.
He comes out all the time, does a promo.
Yeah.
He wrestles, wins every match.
Mm-hmm.
He's beaten The Miz like twice. I think he's beaten Austin Theory once or twice now. I think he lost against him and then he won against him. So, and everybody else that they fed him, he's beat.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'm looking forward to. Oh yeah, deathmatch wrestling.
Let's go.
So I've complained about AEW, right?
Yes.
So if you take all the bad trends of AEW and take it to its most illogical, extreme conclusion,
okay,
you get deathmatch wrestling.
Okay.
So in preparation for this podcast, I watched some deathmatch wrestling, okay? I watched deathmatch wrestling that was done in front of 50 people in a backyard on a ring next to a creek. They had a trampoline where the mat of the trampoline was replaced with barbed wire.
Like around the outside?
No. Like the actual bouncy part of the trampoline was barbed wire. Like it was stretched, like, you know how the trampoline has hooks all the way around it?
Yeah.
Like they would connect one strand of barbed wire across this hook and stretch it across all the way across the trampoline to the other hook. And they had it all over. So it was a trampoline of barbed wire. That's some fucked up backyard wrestling bullshit.
I wish I'd never heard that.
Yes. And these people were
now, let's not pretend like we weren't in somebody's yard where somebody got power bombed through a flaming thumbtack table
with tar.
With tar.
Actually, whenever I saw in the death match, like one of the death matches, somebody getting power bombed through a flaming table.
Yeah,
it brought back some memories.
Yeah, yeah, like PTSD kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my god, that does remind me of things. It's a backyard.
Yep,
but yes,
I do believe it was the yard of the fan of Vince Russo. So
yeah. This indie deathmatch bullshit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I watched the match with John Moxley and Nick Gage.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of Nick Gage matches. I've watched this stuff out of just this morbid curiosity.
Yeah.
Okay. And here's the thing. Granted, it worked. It got my curiosity. I started watching it. I've even seen some Japanese death matches just out of curiosity. But the matches are all bad. I've not seen one death match that looked good. Not one. Even the John Moxley Nick Gage match I was hoping would be at least something. Mm-hmm. It was still bad. It's basically two guys taking turns stabbing each other or slamming each other through glass or hitting each other in the head with light tubes constantly for the whole match, cooperating with one another. It's super real in the fact that they're actually bleeding to death.
Right.
But it's super fake in that they keep just taking turns beating each other in the head with light tubes.
Yep.
It's so obvious that they're cooperating with each other. And I don't know if it's because that 50 people that are in the crowd, those the people that we're talking about earlier, that's pretty much who's making up this crowd.
Right.
Okay. I don't know if it's because they're all marks and they just figure that we don't need to like sell or we don't need to like, actually make it look real, like a real contest. I mean, they sold some, but I mean, they sold because like, their head's getting literally cut with a pizza cutter.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It's not even selling. It's just sitting there letting the guy cut your head and you're reacting to have your head cut open with a pizza cutter. They were wrestling out in the fans. There's just blood everywhere. People brought children to this kind of stuff. Okay. I saw death matches where children were present. This is pornography. Okay. They're taking their children to pornography. If any of these death matches were uploaded to Pornhub, they would not meet the Pornhub community standards. Okay?
Yeah.
They would not meet the community standards of Pornhub.
Yeah.
They would be deleted. They would be taken off the website. And like if you uploaded it, your account would be banned.
Yeah.
But these matches are available to watch on YouTube without any sort of indication of age verification. Or some of them didn't even have the fucking warning that said, "Hey, this content may not be suitable for certain viewers."
Yeah.
So, like, some kid could just be on the internet and just come across this indie deathmatch bullshit. Okay, it's pornographic. People watch it because of the shock and the extreme. It's the same reason why people used to go on Rotten.com back in like the 2000s.
I remember.
Yeah, you remember those days.
Yeah.
The early internet days. That crap.
Yeah.
It's just it's just mind-boggling, pornographic and terrible. And why are kids being brought to these kind of matches? It makes no sense to me.
Now, as my job here on Ring Chronicles, I'm going to throw something at you. What about Terry Funk and Mick Foley?
All right. So, okay. Watch their death match.
Okay.
It still looked like a contest.
Okay.
It didn't look like mutual cooperation, stabbing each other in the head with forks.
Like you stab me and I'll stab you. And and back and forth. And okay.
It looks like an actual match.
Okay.
And they weren't doing this stuff in America in front of little kids, okay?
Really, that's true.
They were doing it in Japan, which is a different culture.
Yeah.
Different set of values and standards. And it's just not the same to me.
Okay.
Those guys could actually wrestle a match, sell, and make shit look believable. And I just think it's not the same.
Okay. All right.
Would I rather watch a match between Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair? If I could just if I had to choose, okay, for the next month, you can only watch two wrestlers fight, and you can choose Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair matches, or you can choose Terry Funk and Cactus Jack matches. I'm going with the Ric Flair Steamboat matches. I just prefer that.
Right.
I don't put Terry Funk and Mick Foley in the same category as garbage deathmatch wrestlers fighting each other near a creek in someone's backyard with a trampoline made of barbed wire.
Oh, man.
there's a huge gulf between that for me.
So aside from death matches, what about matches that are really just extreme in nature compared to your your normal wrestling match? For example, what about a Money in the Bank match with all the ladders and everything?
Okay.
So you see what I'm saying? Like
you're not taking syringes.
It's not a death match, right? I know it's not a death match.
You're not taking syringes and like withdrawing blood from each other,
right?
In a Money in the Bank match,
right?
Usually, there's very little blood, if none at all, in a Money in the Bank match.
Well, it is the dub, and
it's wrestled in a way where the match it doesn't look overly cooperative.
Yeah,
although that has gotten worse over.
It can look like, okay, now it's my turn to go up to the ladder and do a high spot.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm getting at.
It has gotten worse over the years with that crap. Like if you look at that classic match with like the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudley Boys, and then you look at some of the ladder matches that are coming out now.
Yeah,
they're not as good,
as
that.
Right.
Okay.
Well, at the time, that was very innovative.
That was very innovative.
I mean, the stuff they were pulling off, and I think in that case, if you're introducing something new, I think it's perfectly fine. But if it's something you've seen a million times,
yeah, I've seen some really good ladder matches in my time of watching wrestling, and I've seen some really bad ladder matches.
Like, wasn't the first ladder match Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 10?
No.
Okay. I'm sure it wasn't the first, but what about
the first
big promotion ladder match?
Nope.
Okay.
You want to know what the first ladder match was in the WWF?
What?
Shawn Michaels versus Bret the Hitman Hart. Yeah, look it up. It's a great match.
How come I've never heard about this one?
I don't even think it was on a pay-per-view. I think it was like a house show.
Really?
Or maybe like an episode of like Main Event or something, or whatever the show was on Sunday. You wrestling
Shotgun Saturday night.
Yeah, some kind of. You could go watch it.
Okay.
Find out where it's at. I don't even know where you can find it. I don't even know if it's on the since it wasn't like a major pay per view. I don't even know if you can find it on Peacock.
Wow.
But I have to tape it home.
Okay.
I have to tape it home. So I do have documentation of this, and that's why I'm aware of it.
But is now I don't know why, I don't know what made me say first match, but is that promoted as the first? I mean Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels. I mean, do they? Is that how they promote that match? Is the first ladder match?
I don't know if they explicitly say the first ladder match,
right? But
they often bring it up whenever they talk about ladder matches, as like that famous WrestleMania 10 match, with Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, errors and admissions.
Okay.
I think in the past episode I mentioned Kevin Nash being the champion in 1993. That's dead wrong. I don't know why I said that or suggested that.
Okay.
No, that he won it later.
Okay.
So if once I listen to that episode, I'll have to check into that. I think it was the last episode, and I thought about it later.
Okay.
And I said, I think I messed up.
Okay.
But yeah, no, that's what happens when we wing it. We're just winging this shit now.
Yep.
We don't have a 60-point thesis in front of us. Okay.
It's a lot more fun that way.
Yeah. But no, I don't put ladder matches in the same category as death matches. I mean, it's like the definition of pornography. You know it when you see it. Yeah. The legal definition. Mm-hmm. When I look at a good ladder match and I look at a death match, I do not see anything that remotely resembles each other.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And death matches, like Ian Rotten's son, I think he got like a city in Indiana to ban hardcore wrestling. So like, I mean, it's bad for the business. Yeah. Because people find out about like, because it was like this health scare of like bloodborne pathogens and everything. So like, when I see John Moxley and Nick Gage getting into the crowd and just bleeding on everything. Yeah. Okay, there's a lot of thoughts that are going through my head. That blood is getting on some of the fans. Right. Okay. Which one of them has hepatitis? Yeah. I mean, given their history, I know they probably test them, but my God, how accurate is that stuff? Because I know, like with HIV, you can have it in your system for years before you test positive. Okay, so spreading bloodborne pathogens. Okay, you would think we would learn something from COVID, and then the glass that gets on the ground. Yeah, I don't know about you, Lance, but every time that I've ever broken glass on the floor, and I later walked across that floor barefooted, no matter how clean and how much I swept and every crack and crevice that I tried to clean glass, I didn't get every single piece of glass out. Right. One of it got jabbed in my foot. Right. And when you're doing this deathmatch indie bullshit, I guarantee you that in these venues, there's leftover glass coated in somebody's blood with hepatitis or some other shit on it. Yeah. And it's going to infect some kid or something. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if it, I don't know. I don't know how long bloodborne pathogens stay on glass in an arena. Yeah. I might be making something more out of this than what there is. But I do know that it's probably not safe to be just splashing blood on fans on the outside of the ring. Right. When you're going through the crowd, slamming each other through freaking chairs and stuff. Yep. And so to me, you take all the trends, all the terrible trends that's been happening in wrestling in the last 30 years, and you concentrate it into one thing. Yeah. And that's what deathmatch wrestling is. It has no business in wrestling. It should be done away with. It should be regulated. We should not have it exist. It should be gone. Okay. Let Japanese people do it. Okay. They've been doing it for a long time.
Okay, so only Mick Foley and Terry Funk can do death matches right. And Terry Funk has passed and Mick Foley's retired, so
yeah. So I guess Lance's argument is that Glenn doesn't think anybody should do death matches. If somebody actually could show to me a death match done right, I might change my mind. Okay. So
basically, you don't trust anybody to do it right. It's not that it can't be done right. It's just that you don't trust anybody to do it right.
Not anybody I've seen.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So instead of calling me obese and fatty, link me some actual good death matches. Give me some constructive criticism here. Yeah. and unlike people that look like cereal boxes with abs, I know to put my shirt on.
Oh, man. All right.
That's it.
Yep. So is that all we got for today?
That's all we got.
All right. I'm gonna end this with some more some outro music here.
Outro music. All right.
It's the same as the intro music, but I'm gonna use it as the outro music too.
Why not?
Yeah.
All right.
High production.
Metal.
All right. So for Glenn Ritchie and Lance Vaughn, this is Ring Chronicles, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Later.